In a world where trust is the foundation of all security structures, the role of the authorities responsible for the custody of prisoners is of utmost importance. However, over the years, shocking reports and cases of abuse of power have come to light, revealing that some law enforcement officers have crossed ethical and legal boundaries. This behavior shows the impact of such actions not only on the prison system, but also on the lives of everyone involved, from the officers themselves to the prisoners and their families. These moments involving female officers are what you will watch today. Linda de Sousa Abreu, a Brazilian 31-year-old woman who worked as a jailer at Her Majesty's Prison, HMP, Wandsworth in London, was sentenced to 15 months in prison for having sexual relations with an inmate inside the facility. The case gained attention after the disclosure of a video that showed the act, filmed by another prisoner using a smuggled phone. During the trial, Linda admitted to a relationship with the inmate Linton Wyrich, 36 years old, who was serving a sentence for stealing items worth £65,000, about $81,000 US, from an apartment in Kensington. She was arrested in June of 2024 at Heathrow Airport in London after the video was released. Linda's defense argued that she was under work-related pressure and personal problems. A psychiatric report indicated that she suffers from severe borderline personality disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which makes her highly impulsive and prone to reckless behavior. Judge Martin Edmonds emphasized that Linda's actions compromise discipline and security within the prison, in addition to affecting the reputation of the prison service. After the sentencing, Linda expressed that she was in love with Wyrich and planned to continue the relationship after his release. She mentioned that he made her feel like a gangster and that she had never felt so safe. In May of 2017, Nicholas Aitchison, a transportation officer with the Daytona Beach Police in Florida, was accused of sexual misconduct while transporting a female inmate to the Volusia County Jail. During the journey, Aitchison stopped the police van about 3 kilometers before reaching the destination, near the Volusia Teachers Union office, and parked for about 8 minutes. According to the investigation, he had exposed himself and asked the woman to perform a sexual act on him. The inmate refused the proposal and, upon arriving at the jail, reported the incident to a supervisor. The van was equipped with surveillance cameras that captured part of what happened. Although the audio was not entirely clear, it was possible to hear the woman refusing what was offered to her. After the complaint, Aitchison was arrested and faced charges of assault, indecent exposure, and false imprisonment. He was suspended without pay and subsequently fired from the Daytona Beach Police Department. Authorities from Lauderdale County in the United States issued a warrant for the Assistant Corrections Director Vicky White, accusing her of allowing or facilitating an escape. White, a veteran employee who had worked at the sheriff's office for 25 years, allegedly helped a suspect named Casey White escape. Despite sharing the same last name, they were not related. To her subordinates, Vicky said she was taking Casey White for a mental health evaluation at the courthouse and left the prison with the suspect handcuffed in the vehicle. Security cameras showed the vehicle with Vicky driving and the suspect also getting in. The two ended up disappearing, and a search began once the car was found abandoned in a parking lot. According to investigations, everything indicated that the suspect had escaped, as had Vicky. The investigation showed that Vicky had been planning and, let's say, pulling strings so the suspect could flee the facility. After a few days on the run, Casey White was eventually identified on a security camera at a car wash, and the police began a chase. Unfortunately, during this chase, Vicky ended up losing her life, but Casey was recaptured and sentenced to life imprisonment for the escape. Marque Johnson, a 45-year-old former prisoner transport officer, was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 5 years of supervised release for violating the civil rights of several female inmates by sexually assaulting them during transport. Johnson worked for the Inmate Services Corporation, a private company responsible for transporting individuals detained on warrants outside their home states. In November of 2019, during the transport of a female inmate from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Delta County, Colorado, Johnson ordered the victim to move to the rear of the van, where he assaulted her under threat of a weapon. He admitted that the victim did not consent to the act and that he used a dangerous weapon during the assault. In addition to this incident, Johnson confessed to sexually assaulting 2 other inmates in 2019, forcing them to engage in relations without their consent. Johnson was required to register as a sex offender under the Federal Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act. He was also, of course, fired. A surveillance video from the Darlington County Sheriff's Office shows the moment when an on-duty officer offers to have sexual relations with an inmate. Footage from the camera shows the exact moment the officer, taking advantage of the fact that there was no one else around, goes to the room where the detainee was being held and makes the proposition, hinting that the inmate might receive benefits or even be released if he agreed, a kind of bribe, but coming from the officer. The detainee immediately refused, and the officer kept insisting but then left. What he did not expect was that the detainee would spill the beans, and an investigation prompted by the complaint ended up catching him in the act. After confirming through the footage and audio that it was indeed an attempt at harassment, the officer was removed from his duties and arrested for the crime. A judge in Argentina was caught on security cameras kissing a man serving a life sentence for taking the life of a police officer. The kiss took place in the visiting room of a penitentiary in the city of Trelew, in the southeast of the country. The judge who kissed the inmate is named Mariel Suarez. She was part of a panel of judges that sentenced the same inmate she is seen kissing in the footage, Christian Bustos. Bustos was sentenced for taking the life of a police officer in 2009, and during his trial in 2021, Mariel was one of the votes against the life sentence. The Superior Court of Justice issued a statement indicating that the judge had made a request to meet with the defendant in the room where he was, which was indeed suspicious, given that he was considered highly dangerous, but no one suspected it would actually be an intimate encounter. The Superior Court of Justice also stated that it was investigating the case to understand the reason for the kiss and the nature of their relationship. According to information, the judge was removed from her position and would likely be charged for this irregularity. In 2021, a female prison guard in South Africa faced disciplinary measures after a video surfaced on social media showing her involved in a sexual act with an inmate. The incident occurred at the Encombe Correctional Center in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. The South African Department of Correctional Services confirmed the authenticity of the video and expressed deep concern about the violation of security protocols and professional ethics. The officer was suspended and subjected to an internal disciplinary process, while the inmate involved also faced disciplinary sanctions. The department stressed its commitment to maintaining integrity and security in correctional facilities, stating that such behavior would not be tolerated. The fully explicit video leaked on the internet and quickly spread everywhere. The officer was completely exposed and, of course, was unaware she was being filmed. In addition to punishment, dismissal, and sentencing, she also suffered public backlash and repercussions within her own family. In 2021, a female prison officer in Australia was caught having an inappropriate relationship with an inmate who had been convicted of armed robbery. During the incident, the woman, considered very beautiful, exchanged love letters and secret phone calls with the inmate, as well as maintaining contact with him inside the prison. The relationship came to light when she confided in a colleague. After pleading guilty to multiple charges, including misconduct in public office, and revealing all the exchanges of messages and letters with the prisoner, she avoided prison, but was of course fired. The case obviously went public, and many news outlets began reporting on it. The officer, considered very attractive, caught attention not just for her looks, but also for her completely unexpected behavior. In 2019, Ashaya Gunn, a 27-year-old former prison officer, was sentenced to 12 months in prison for maintaining an intimate relationship with Khurram Razak, a dangerous inmate, while working at a prison in Wales. The case gained international attention after photos and videos were revealed, exposing the involvement between Gunn and Razak. During the investigation, images were found showing the couple kissing and text messages exchanged between them. Gunn was also accused of smuggling a phone to Razak, facilitating illicit communication between them. She pleaded guilty to misconduct in public office and was sentenced in court. The investigation discovered that the officer had exchanged more than 1,200 phone calls, including explicit video calls, with him in less than 5 months on the job. After serving her sentence, Ashaya Gunn, who holds a degree in criminology and psychology, embarked on a new career in a fashion company. When approached about her criminal past, she often cites regret for her choices at the time, but says it served as a lesson in her life. In 2015, Gemma Cowperthwaite, a 27-year-old former prison officer in St. Clair County, Michigan, was sentenced to 10 months in prison for having a sexual relationship with a female inmate. She pleaded guilty to sexual assault with intent to commit a high-level offense, a charge punishable by up to 10 years in prison. In addition to her prison sentence, Cowperthwaite was required to register as a sex offender for life. The relationship occurred at Cowperthwaite's home while the inmate was in a work release program. After the discovery of the case, Cowperthwaite was placed on administrative leave and later fired. St. Clair County Sheriff Tim Donnellan, outraged, stated that she deserves every minute of the time she was sentenced to. In an exclusive interview with the program True Crime News, Gemma detailed her crime and how the victim caught her attention. However, she claims she never forced the inmate to do anything, which in her opinion would not be an abuse of power or a threat, as she did not coerce or threaten the victim. In 2021, Tina Gonzalez, a former prison officer in Fresno County, California, was sentenced to 7 months in prison and 2 years probation for having sexual relations with an inmate. She admitted to facilitating the entry of a cell phone and drugs into the prison for the inmate. During the investigation, it was discovered that Gonzalez cut a hole in her uniform to facilitate the sexual act, which took place in view of 11 other inmates. Authorities highlighted the severity of the security breach and the violation of public trust. Furthermore, Gonzalez provided the inmate with sensitive information, such as the schedule of cell searches and details about other inmates, compromising the safety of the institution and her colleagues. After her arrest in December of 2019, she continued to stay in contact with the inmate, engaging in sexually explicit conversations and showing no remorse for her actions. During the trial, Judge Michael Idiart acknowledged the seriousness of Gonzalez's actions, but took into account her lack of prior criminal record and her guilty plea in determining the sentence. With credits for good behavior, she could be released before serving the full term, but there is no information on whether that actually happened. A woman named Sylvia Hidalgo reported a prison officer who harassed her during a visit she paid to her fiancé at a prison in Texas. After filing the complaint, in which she said it was not the first time she had been harassed by the officer, an investigation began, and through surveillance camera footage from the facility and from the victim's car, it was possible to see the moment when the officer really touches her leg in a very intimate and disturbing way. Furthermore, he dropped some hints at the fiancé, who was obviously bothered and ignored him, but this time decided to expose everything. She says she was afraid to come forward and worried that her fiancé would suffer retaliation in the prison because of it, but she could no longer endure the situation. The officer was removed from his post and arrested after the investigation. In 2022, Charlene Diane O'Banion, a 33-year-old former jailer in Montgomery County, Texas, was sentenced to 100 days in jail after pleading guilty to improper sexual activity with an inmate. O'Banion had sexual relations with Jacob Parker, a 28-year-old prisoner, while working at the Conroe jail facility. Authorities discovered the affair after a recorded call on the 17th of December of 2021, in which O'Banion and Parker discussed their sexual activities. During an interview, O'Banion admitted to having oral sex with Parker on the 17th of November of 2021 in an out-of-sight area inside the jail. She explained that, due to drug-related issues in the jail, there were no workers available in one of the wings, so the prison staff recruited volunteers from another unit to perform cleaning tasks. It was during that time that O'Banion and Parker became involved sexually. The case, which caught media attention, was covered by various news outlets and exposed the serious breaches of professional and ethical conduct within the prison system, jeopardizing the facility's security and integrity. A prison officer who shared intimate sexual chat and explicit images with 3 inmates she was involved with ended up behind bars. Sarah Janes Williams, then 38 years old, was working at a prison in Liverpool, England, when she became entangled with 3 criminals. The Liverpool Crown Court found that the prison employee was aware the inmates had cell phones, but chose to exchange messages and explicit images with them rather than report their illegal devices to her bosses. The messages contained intimate and explicit content. Following a major investigation and the confirmation of the officer's involvement with the inmates, she was sentenced to 18 months in prison. 2 of the inmates with whom she was exchanging messages pleaded guilty to possessing cell phones in prison and received extended prison terms. She also pleaded guilty and revealed that she had fallen into the prisoner's trap after being seduced. In 2007, Cindy A. Bartoshevich, a 31-year-old former jailer at the Milwaukee County Jail, was charged with official misconduct after having a sexual relationship with Michael Carroll, an inmate awaiting trial on homicide charges. Investigations revealed that Bartoshevich used her maiden name, Chojnacki, to post Carroll's bail, and, on other occasions, used the alias Penny Berlin to send him money while he was in jail. She also bought $1,100 worth of phone minutes for Carroll. After the affair was uncovered, Bartoshevich resigned, and Sheriff David A. Clark Jr. began the termination process. She was charged with official misconduct, facing up to 3.5 years in prison. Her marriage, of course, ended when her husband found out everything she had been doing and who she really was. In 2008, Bartoshevich was sentenced to probation after giving a detailed explanation of the personal and health difficulties that led to her behavior. In 2019, a nurse named Gina Rodriguez, who worked at the Cumberland County Prison in Pennsylvania, was accused of having sexual relations with 2 inmates. After becoming suspicious of her behavior, and based on information provided by one of the inmates, the police began investigating the nurse and discovered that she took advantage of moments alone with the prisoners to engage in relations with them. Additionally, they exchanged intimate and explicit messages through a cell phone Gina had secretly brought for them. Everything was found out, and she ended up in trouble. She was arrested and faced charges of sexual misconduct with the inmates. The case sparked major controversy and raised serious concerns about security and professional ethics within the prison system, since even health professionals could be involved in wrongdoing. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.